Some urban legends are just campfire junk with better marketing, but others get into newspapers, police files, cemeteries, panic waves, and local history books like they paid rent. Tonight, we are talking about 33 creepy legends that refuse to stay fictional, from talking wall animals to vampire hunts, cursed phone numbers, sewer monsters, and things people still swear they saw. 1. Gef the Talking Mongoose was not just a weird British ghost story. It was a full domestic nightmare with whiskers, attitude, and way too much confidence. In the 1930s, the Irving family on the Isle of Man claimed an invisible mongoose lived inside their farmhouse walls. Not a ghost, not a demon, a mongoose. Gef supposedly sang songs, repeated gossip, threw objects, made rude comments, and introduced himself as the eighth wonder of the world, which is a bold title for something living rent-free behind the paneling. Reporters, paranormal investigators, and curious visitors showed up because apparently Britain heard wall mongoose with opinions and immediately cleared its schedule. Whether it was fraud, ventriloquism, folklore, or family chaos, Gef became a historical case study in how a talking pest can outlive almost everyone who laughed at it. 2. The scuba diver in the forest fire is one of those legends that sounds like it was invented by someone who looked at a helicopter, a lake, and a bad day, then connected the dots with pure nonsense glue. The story says firefighters were battling a huge forest fire when they found a burned body high in the woods wearing full scuba gear. The explanation? A helicopter had supposedly scooped him from a lake while collecting water and dumped him onto the burning forest. It is absurd, tragic, and weirdly cinematic, like nature hired the wrong delivery service. In reality, this tale spread for decades as a classic urban legend because it feels just possible enough to terrify people who have never seen how firefighting buckets actually work. Still, the image is unforgettable. History's worst accidental skydiving lesson. 3. The Black Volga haunted Eastern Europe like a limousine designed by a nightmare committee. During the Cold War, people whispered about a mysterious black Soviet car driving through Poland, Ukraine, Belarus, and beyond. Depending on the version, the passengers were KGB agents, priests, vampires, Satanists, or rich foreigners looking for children's organs. Very subtle. The victims supposedly vanished, and the car disappeared into the gray streets like state-sponsored Dracula with tinted windows. What made the legend powerful was the real atmosphere around it. Secret police, government surveillance, fear of authority, and the constant feeling that someone important could ruin your life from behind a curtain. The Black Volga was not just a monster story, it was political anxiety wearing headlights, and honestly, that might be scarier than a vampire with a driver. 4. The Goatmen of Beltsville is what happens when local folklore looks at science and says, yes, but what if it had hooves and an axe? In Maryland, people told stories about a half-man, half-goat creature stalking roads, woods, and lonely lovers' lanes near Beltsville. The legend claimed he was once a scientist at an agricultural research center who somehow mixed his DNA with a goat, because apparently workplace safety forms were optional that day. After the experiment went wrong, he supposedly escaped and began attacking cars, pets, and anyone foolish enough to hang around dark roads. The real roots probably mix old monster folklore, fear of laboratories, and very human suspicion of government research sites. But the Goatman became local history anyway, proof that nothing says romantic evening, like a goat scientist with unresolved anger. 5. The Well to Hell was the perfect urban legend for the late Cold War. Soviet scientists, forbidden knowledge, mysterious drilling, and screams from underground. The story claimed that in 1989, researchers in Siberia drilled deeper than anyone should, broke through into a burning cavern, lowered a microphone, and recorded the agonizing voices of the damned. Subtle, not even a little. The tale borrowed from real deep drilling projects, especially the Soviet obsession with pushing technology into places humans probably had no business poking. Then tabloids and religious broadcasters added the fun little detail that the scientists had accidentally opened hell like a very unfortunate basement renovation. The recording was fake, the story was nonsense, but it traveled globally because it hit a primal fear, What if the planet is not just rock, but also terrible customer service from the afterlife? 6. The pig-faced woman was one of Europe's strangest celebrity legends, and somehow she had better publicity than most real aristocrats. From the 17th to 19th centuries, people spread stories of a wealthy lady born under a curse, with the body of a refined noblewoman and the face of a pig. She supposedly lived in luxury, wore fine dresses, received suitors, and ate from a silver trough. Because if you are cursed, at least commit to accessories. In some versions, she could regain human form through marriage. In others, no husband could survive the weirdness of dinner. Newspapers, pamphlets, and hoax portraits helped the legend explode, especially in Britain and Ireland. It turned superstition, class obsession, beauty standards, and gossip into one bizarre package. A rich woman's society could not stop staring at, even while pretending to be polite. 7. The dead body under the mattress is the motel story that ruined cheap travel for everyone with a functioning nose. The legend usually starts with a couple checking into a low-budget room and noticing a terrible smell. They complain. Management shrugs. They sleep anyway because apparently the human brain hears rotting mystery odor and says, "We paid for the night." By morning, the smell becomes impossible to ignore. Someone lifts the mattress, opens the box spring, or checks the bed frame, and there it is, a decomposing corpse hidden right under them. The horrifying part is that versions of this story have crossed from legend into real crime reports in several places, which gives the tale its horrible staying power. It is not just a campfire story. It is a reminder to always trust your nose before trusting motel management. 8. The dancing plague of 1518 sounds like a medieval rumor invented by someone allergic to joy, but it was connected to a real historical outbreak of mass dancing in Strasbourg. The story says people were cursed, possessed, or punished by Saint Vitus, dancing in the streets until their feet bled and some collapsed from exhaustion. One woman reportedly began dancing, then others joined, and suddenly the city had a public health crisis that looked like the worst music festival in history. Authorities allegedly tried to solve it by giving dancers more space and musicians, which is medically questionable but very on-brand for the 16th century. Modern explanations include mass psychogenic illness, stress, religious fear, and social contagion. The legend survived because the image is so disturbing. A city dancing not from happiness, but because it could not stop. 9. The Bunnyman is one of those legends that proves a costume can turn a local creep story into a full-blown regional nightmare. In Virginia, people tell of an axe-wielding man in a rabbit suit haunting a bridge, attacking cars, threatening teens, and leaving mutilated rabbits around like the world's worst holiday decoration. The legend grew around Bunnyman Bridge, officially the Colchester Overpass, where brave people go at night to scare themselves for free because therapy is expensive. The story has roots in reports from the 1970s involving a man in a bunny costume threatening people with a hatchet. From there, folklore did what folklore does. Added escaped patients, murder, ghosts, and a suspicious amount of rabbit drama. The Bunnyman became local history because once a maniac wears ears, nobody lets the story die. 10. The man from Torid is the urban legend for anyone who has ever stood in an airport line and thought, "This place already feels like another dimension." The story claims that in 1954, officials at Tokyo's Haneda Airport stopped a well-dressed businessman whose passport came from a country called Torid. He supposedly insisted Torid was real, located between France and Spain, where Andorra exists on actual maps. His documents, money, and hotel booking looked convincing. Then he was placed under guard overnight, and by morning he had vanished from a locked room, along with his mysterious paperwork. It is almost certainly a modern legend, not a verified case, but it became beloved in paranormal circles because it combines bureaucracy with cosmic horror. Imagine discovering the multiverse, and the first thing it gives you is airport security. 11. Alligators in the sewers became one of New York's most durable urban legends because it weaponized two things city people already feared: disgusting infrastructure and other people's bad decisions. The classic story says wealthy families bought baby alligators as exotic pets, got bored, flushed them down toilets, and accidentally created a hidden sewer kingdom of blind, albino reptiles beneath Manhattan. It is ridiculous, but not completely random. Reports of actual alligators turning up in cities helped feed the myth, and newspapers loved the idea because mutant toilet dinosaur sells better than someone made a poor pet choice. The legend exploded in the 1930s and became part of New York folklore, a creepy little joke about what might be moving below the street grates. Rats are bad enough. Rats with armor and teeth? That is urban planning's villain era. 12. Kuchisake Onna, the slit-mouthed woman, is one of Japan's most terrifying modern legends because she turns politeness into a trap. The story says a woman wearing a surgical mask approaches people, often children, and asks, "Am I beautiful?" Say no, and you may be attacked. Say yes, and she removes the mask, revealing a mouth sliced from ear to ear, then asks again. Congratulations, you have entered the worst conversation tree ever. The legend surged in Japan in the late 1970s, spreading through schools so intensely that some children were escorted home in groups. Older roots may connect to jealous husband tales, ghost stories, and anxieties about beauty, violence, and strangers. What makes her unforgettable is the impossible choice. It is not just fear of a monster. It is fear of answering one simple question wrong. 13. The Popo Bawa is a terrifying legend from Zanzibar that does not politely stay in the category of spooky folklore. It has caused real waves of panic, especially during periods of political tension and social stress. Described as a shape-shifting creature with bat-like wings, a single eye, and the charming habit of attacking people at night, the Popo Bawa reportedly demands that victims tell others what happened, or it will come back. Basically, a monster with a built-in publicity campaign. The legend became especially intense in the 1990s and 2000s, with communities sleeping outside together for safety and rumors spreading fast. Scholars have linked the panic to fear, politics, masculinity, spiritual beliefs, and social pressure. Whether seen as spirit, demon, or mass hysteria, Popo Bawa became history because people changed their behavior around it. That is serious monster branding. 14. The Mad Gasser of Mattoon sounds like a comic book villain rejected for being too weird. But in 1944, people in Mattoon, Illinois, genuinely panicked over him. Residents reported a sweet, strange odor drifting into bedrooms at night, followed by nausea, paralysis, weakness, or burning sensations. Newspapers ran with the idea of a phantom attacker spraying gas through windows because nothing calms a town like headlines about invisible chemical terrorism. Police investigated. Citizens armed themselves. People watched dark yards with the confidence of anyone who has not slept properly in days. Similar reports had appeared years earlier in Virginia, which made the legend feel bigger. Most modern explanations point toward mass hysteria, industrial smells, anxiety, or misinterpreted illness. But for a while, Mattoon believed something was out there. And nothing is creepier than a monster nobody can see but everyone can smell. 15. The Mowing Devil is one of England's oldest "the field looks cursed" stories, and it reads like a 17th century argument that escalated way too fast. In 1678, a farmer allegedly refused to pay a laborer to mow his oats, saying he would rather the devil mowed them instead. Bold negotiation strategy. The next morning, according to a pamphlet, the field had been cut in a strange, precise pattern, as if by fire or supernatural hands, and no ordinary mower could have done it. Centuries later, crop circle fans looked back at the Mowing Devil as an early ancestor of their favorite mystery. Was it folklore, religious warning, prank, natural event, or just a dramatic way to say, pay your workers? Whatever the truth, the legend survived because it gave people a perfect moral lesson. Cheapness may summon extremely efficient demons. 16. The cursed Bulgarian telephone number, EOA88, 88888888, is a modern legend with just enough real-world detail to make people uncomfortable. The story says the number was used by 3 different owners over about a decade, and each one died violently or under strange circumstances. First came a telecom executive who reportedly died young. Then a crime boss was shot, Then another businessman connected to shady dealings was also killed. After that, the number was said to be suspended, because apparently even a phone company can look at a pattern and say, "No thanks, this SIM card has bad energy." The legend spread internationally because it combines technology, superstition, organized crime, and that hypnotic row of eights. Is the number actually cursed, or did it simply belong to high-risk men in dangerous worlds? Either way, nobody wants it as their contact number. 17. The Pope Lick Monster is Kentucky's nightmare reminder that urban legends can become dangerous when people go looking for them. The creature is usually described as half-man, half-goat, sometimes with horns, fur, and a human-like face. It allegedly lives near a railroad trestle in Louisville and uses hypnosis, voice mimicry, or plain old terror to lure people onto the tracks. The legend sounds like carnival horror, but the location is very real, and so are the active trains. People have been injured or killed while trespassing there, which makes this one less funny and much darker. The monster story became local history because the legend itself drew thrill seekers to a deadly place. Whether anyone believes in a goat man or not, the warning is brutally simple. The real monster may be a train schedule you did not check. 18. The poisoned dress legend is basically Cinderella if the fairy godmother worked in a morgue. In the 19th century version, a young woman buys or borrows a beautiful dress for a ball, dances through the night, becomes sick, and dies. The horrifying explanation? The dress had supposedly been taken from a corpse and still carried embalming fluids, poisonous chemicals, or traces of death itself. The story spread in an era when clothing was reused, resold, and sometimes connected to disease fears. People were already anxious about hidden contamination, crowded cities, and the thin line between elegance and decay. The legend also targeted vanity, because old moral tales loved punishing women for wanting one nice evening. Historically, toxic dyes and dangerous fabrics were real problems, which gave the tale an extra chill. The dress was probably fictional. The fear behind it was not. 19. Polybius is the arcade game legend that turned 1980s nostalgia into government-flavored paranoia. The story says a mysterious cabinet appeared in arcades around Portland, Oregon in 1981. Players supposedly experienced headaches, memory loss, nightmares, hallucinations, and even personality changes. Then Men in Black came to collect data from the machine before it vanished forever. As legends go, it is beautifully engineered. Video games, mind control, secret agencies, and teenagers spending too many quarters in dark rooms. There is no solid evidence Polybius existed as described, but the myth grew because early arcade culture did feel strange, addictive, and slightly suspicious to adults who already thought Pac-Man was corrupting civilization. The legend became part of gaming history, inspiring documentaries, references, recreations, and endless arguments. A fake arcade machine somehow earned a real place in pop culture. High score, paranoia. 20. The Highgate Vampire turned a London cemetery into a Gothic circus in the 1970s. Highgate Cemetery was already atmospheric enough, with crumbling tombs, ivy-covered graves, and Victorian drama stacked like horror movie furniture. Then rumors spread of a tall, dark figure haunting the grounds, draining animals, floating over graves, and generally behaving like it had read too much Dracula. Occultists, amateur vampire hunters, reporters, and curious crowds got involved. At one point, the frenzy led to chaotic cemetery invasions, opened graves, and police attention. What began as local ghost stories collided with tabloid culture, occult revivalism, and public appetite for supernatural spectacle. The Highgate Vampire became history not because a vampire was proven, but because people acted as if one might be there. Sometimes a legend does not need fangs. It only needs a headline and a spooky cemetery. 21. Spring-heeled. Jack was Victorian London's answer to the question, what if Batman was evil, rude, and possibly on fire? First reported in the 1830s, Jack was described as a terrifying figure who leaped impossible heights, attacked people, had claw-like hands, glowing eyes, and in some accounts breathed blue flames. He targeted women, frightened towns, and turned up in newspapers, police reports, penny dreadfuls, and rumor mills across Britain. Was he a prankster in costume? A criminal? A case of mass panic? A demon invented by a city obsessed with fear and spectacle? Nobody knows, which is exactly why the legend survived. Industrial Britain was changing fast, cities were growing, and people were ready to believe the streets had produced something unnatural. Spring-heeled Jack became a historical monster because he felt modern, fast, theatrical, and annoyingly hard to catch. 22. The Russian sleep experiment is a cold internet legend dressed in Soviet nightmare clothing. The story claims that in the 1940s, researchers kept prisoners awake for 15 days using an experimental gas. At first, the subjects talked, then they screamed. Then they became violent, mutilated themselves, refused release, and turned into something no longer fully human. It is not a documented historical experiment. It is creepypasta, built for online horror forums. But it spreads so widely because it borrows from real 20th century fears: secret prisons, human experimentation, totalitarian science, sleep deprivation, and governments treating bodies like disposable equipment. That is why it feels nastier than a simple monster tale. The monster is not just in the room. It is the system behind the glass, taking notes while people break. Fake story, real anxieties, extremely effective nightmare fuel. 23. La Ciguapa is one of the Dominican Republic's most haunting folklore figures, and she comes with one of the creepiest design choices in legend: backward-facing feet. She is often described as a beautiful, mysterious woman living in mountains or forests, with long hair and hypnotic power over anyone who sees her. But if someone tries to track her, her reversed footprints lead them the wrong way. That is not just spooky, that is elite-level anti-stalker engineering. Stories about La Ciguapa blend indigenous, African, and Spanish influences, and they often warn about desire, wilderness, and the danger of chasing what you do not understand. Depending on the version, she is seductive, tragic, dangerous, or shy. The legend became cultural history because she is not a simple monster. She is beauty, fear, and confusion walking away from you while her footprints lie. 24. Cropsey began as a New York campfire boogeyman, the kind of story kids whisper at summer camps to make sure nobody sleeps comfortably. He was often described as a hook-handed killer or escaped patient lurking near abandoned institutions on Staten Island. Classic horror setup, right? Woods, ruins, children, a faceless threat. Then the legend became horrifyingly tangled with real life when disappearances of children in the area led investigators toward Andre Rand, a former employee at the Willowbrook State School. The real case was grim, complicated, and tragic, so this is not a monster to joke about. What makes Cropsey so chilling is the way folklore and reality overlapped. A name used to scare children became attached to actual fear, actual investigations, and actual history. Sometimes the urban legend is a mask, and what waits behind it is human. 25. The Dover Demon appeared for only a brief moment in Massachusetts, but it left behind one of America's strangest creature cases. In 1977, several teenagers in Dover reported seeing a small, thin, alien-like being with a huge head, glowing orange eyes, long fingers, and almost no recognizable face. One witness saw it balancing on a stone wall, which is already rude behavior for any cryptid trying to make a good first impression. The sightings happened over roughly 2 nights, then stopped. No grand attacks, no speeches, no dramatic footprints leading to a UFO dealership. Just a deeply unsettling visitor and a town left asking what on earth that thing was. Explanations range from a young moose to an owl to teenage imagination. But the Dover Demon became history because the witnesses seemed genuinely shaken, and the creature design was nightmare perfect. 26. The Crying Boy. Painting curse gripped Britain in the 1980s because nothing says relaxing home decor, like a mass-produced portrait that allegedly survives fires while your house does not. The legend began when newspapers reported that prints of a crying boy remained strangely undamaged after house fires. Soon, people claimed the painting was cursed. Firefighters supposedly saw it again and again. Families panicked. Some owners burned the prints in public, which is a bold solution to a fire curse, but emotionally understandable. The truth likely involved fire-resistant board, placement, chance, and tabloid enthusiasm doing Olympic-level stretching. But the panic became part of British popular culture because the image was already eerie, a sad child staring from the wall as everything around him burns. It turned cheap art into a haunted object with the marketing power of pure dread. 27. The Grinning Man is a bizarre figure from American paranormal lore, and he looks like someone asked a nightmare to design a door-to-door salesman. Witnesses described a tall humanoid with an enormous fixed smile, no visible nose or ears, and an unsettling presence that felt not quite human. The most famous reports connect him to the UFO wave of the 1960s, especially around New Jersey and West Virginia. In some accounts, he appears near strange lights or mysterious vehicles, silently grinning as if he knows the punchline to a joke that ends badly for everyone else. The legend overlaps with Men in Black stories, alien encounters, and Cold War-era paranoia. What makes him creepy is not violence, but expression. A monster that snarls is normal? A monster that smiles politely? Absolutely not. That is how you get remembered. 28. The Flannan Isles. Lighthouse mystery began with a real disappearance in December 1900, when 3 lighthouse keepers vanished from a remote Scottish island station. When a relief crew arrived, the men were gone. No bodies, no clear explanation. Just an empty lighthouse, harsh seas, and a silence big enough for legends to move in. Over time, stories added strange log entries, ghostly warnings, sea monsters, giant birds, pirates, and supernatural forces, because apparently 3 men lost to a storm was not unsettling enough for the human imagination. The most likely explanation involves severe weather and the men being swept away while securing equipment near the cliffs. Still, the mystery became legendary because lighthouses already feel like the edge of the world. When the keepers vanish, it feels like the sea did not just take them, it erased them. 29. El Chupacabra exploded into modern folklore in the 1990s, first gaining fame in Puerto Rico after reports of livestock found dead with strange wounds and little blood. The creature was described in early versions as a spiked alien-like beast with large eyes and a hunched body. Later, especially in Mexico and the United States, it transformed into a hairless dog-like animal because folklore apparently has regional costume changes. The name means goatsucker, which is both terrifying and weirdly direct. Panic spread through farms, tabloids, radio shows, and late-night conversations. Many supposed chupacabras turned out to be coyotes or dogs with mange, but that did not kill the legend. If anything, it helped it mutate. El Chupacabra became history because it blended rural fear, UFO culture, media frenzy, and the very old human habit of blaming monsters for dead animals. 30. La Llorona is one of the most powerful legends in Mexican and Latin American folklore, and her story is far too tragic for cheap jokes. She is the weeping woman who wanders near rivers, canals, and lonely roads, crying for the children she lost or, in many versions, killed in a moment of despair and rage. Now she searches endlessly, and children are warned not to wander near water at night. The legend has roots in colonial history, indigenous traditions, Catholic imagery, and centuries of storytelling about grief, motherhood, punishment, and danger. What makes La Llorona so enduring is that she is both ghost and warning. She is not just something that jumps from the dark. She is sorrow given a voice, a cry carried across water. Her story became history because generations used it to teach fear, caution, and memory. 31. The rougarou is Louisiana's swamp werewolf, and it has been doing moral enforcement with claws for generations. In Cajun folklore, the rougarou haunts bayous, woods, and dark roads, usually as a human who transforms into a wolf-like beast. Parents used the legend to scare children into behaving, and some versions warned Catholics to observe Lent properly, because nothing says spiritual discipline like the possibility of becoming swamp dog Batman. The creature's roots connect to French werewolf traditions, especially the loup-garou, carried into Louisiana and reshaped by Cajun culture, local landscape, and oral storytelling. The rougarou works because the setting does half the job. Fog, cypress trees, black water, and noises you cannot identify. It is folklore with humidity. Whether monster, curse, or warning, the rougarou became part of regional history because the swamp always keeps a few secrets. 32. The Devil's Tramping Ground in North Carolina is a barren circle in the woods where legend says nothing grows because the devil walks there every night, pacing in circles while plotting evil. Honestly, even the devil having a meeting spot feels weirdly organized. The site, located in Chatham County, has attracted generations of visitors, dare-seekers, campers, and skeptics. People claim objects left in the circle overnight are moved, dogs refuse to enter, and plants cannot survive in the soil. Scientific explanations have included soil composition, heavy foot traffic, salt, or other natural causes, but that has not stopped the legend from thriving. The power of the place is its simplicity. No complicated monster, no ancient manuscript. Just a circle where the woods seem to say, "Not here." Sometimes the creepiest legend is just an empty patch of ground with a reputation. 33. The Mothman is one of America's most famous modern legends, and his story is welded to real fear in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. In 1966 and 1967, witnesses reported a tall, winged figure with glowing red eyes near an abandoned wartime industrial area known as the TNT area. People described it flying, chasing cars, and appearing with a presence that felt less like an animal and more like a warning. Then, in December 1967, the Silver Bridge collapsed, killing 46 people. After that tragedy, the Mothman legend changed forever. Many connected the sightings to the disaster, seeing the creature as an omen. Others argued it was an owl, misidentification, panic, or folklore growing around grief. Either way, Mothman became history because he is not just a monster. He is the shadow people remember before something terrible happened. Now be honest, which legend deserved a spot here and got robbed? Do not say Bloody Mary unless you bring a stronger case than every sleepover in history. Drop the creepiest urban legend we missed, and if your pick is better than mine, the comments will absolutely let me know. Hit like, subscribe, and stay here for more weird history that keeps escaping the basement.